In late 1995, DC Comics editor Jordan Garfinkel pitched writer Chuck Dixon on the idea of doing a team-up book with Black Canary and Barbara Gordon, aka Oracle.
The book, titled Birds of Prey by fellow editor Frank Pitteries, would be built around a clash of styles between the idealistic Dinah Lance and the hard-bitten, cynical Barbara Gordon. Rather than straight-on taking supervillains, the two would work on more out-of-the-way crimes, like mobsters, drug trafficking, and stuff like that.
We've already discussed the incident that caused Barbara to drop the mantle of Batgirl and her resulting paralysis. However, for the first time in like 7 appearances on this show, we now get to delve into the history of Black Canary.
Black Canary actually dates back to the golden age of comics, where Dinah Drake was a member of the Justice Society of America who fell in love with her crime-fighting partner, Detective Larry Lance. The two would eventually marry and have a daughter, Dinah Laurel Lance, who followed in her mother's footsteps by joining the JSA. That would all change when Dinah Laurel Lance met Oliver Queen, aka the Green Arrow, which resulted in her leaving Earth 2, where the Justice Society was based, and crossing over to the JLA's Earth 1 to be with her new love. That would eventually get retconned by DC's Crisis on Infinite Earths event, but much of the story would stay intact, with both Canaries being highly skilled martial artists with the ability to use a supersonic canary cry to take down evildoers.
In 2003, writer Gail Simone took over the book alongside artist Ed Benes, and the two would not only make an addition to the team in the form of Helena Bertinelli, aka the Huntress, but they would wind up beginning a run that would really help put the book on the map, totally eclipsing that short-lived WB television series. Today we're looking at the first volume of that run. This is Birds of Prey, of Like Minds.
Businessman Andrew Fisher's car is broken down on a rainy night in Gotham City. He's actually rather fortunate as a rather alluring woman in fishnet stockings offers him a ride. Unfortunately, the road to super happy fun time is paved with audio of Fisher diverting money from his investors. Fisher attempts to pull out a gun, only for the Black Canary to quite literally kick him out of the vehicle. Finally, he fesses up to being blackmailed, and Dinah leaves him with a contact card and a message to straighten up. From there, Dinah picks up some Italian takeout and returns to her and Oracle's headquarters known as the Clock Tower. As Dinah and Babs go gaga over the Shrimp Primavera, they notice a sudden flash from Fisher's computer, which Oracle had hacked into earlier. It's a suicide email forcing Dinah to run back to the company's headquarters. As she enters the building, Dinah loses contact with Oracle, making her realize that she'd walked into a trap set up by Fisher's blackmailer, who goes by the name Savant. Before she can take on Savant, his enforcer Creo grabs her from behind and begins strangling her. Savant then takes a titanium bat to Dinah's legs. When Oracle manages to regain contact, she doesn't hear from Black Canary but rather Savant, who has a massive list of demands.
Okay, so while the book is actually titled Birds of Prey, the team itself never refers to that name for a long time. Probably because they only have one member of the team who actually has a bird moniker.
Black Canary has her legs wrapped in plaster casts and is then handcuffed to a bed, as Savant makes Oracle speak in rhyming couplets while he starts making demands. First and foremost, he wants to know Batman's identity. When Oracle holds firm on revealing that little factoid, Savant decides to try to learn her identity instead. He tries leaning on Canary, but her throat is too swollen for her to speak properly. It doesn't prevent her from trying to put the moves on Creo, which just turns out to be barking up a hollow tree.
Yeah, that is not a joke. In later issues, it's revealed that Creo is gay, and Savant is actually bisexual, so, positive representation?
Oracle isn't going down without a fight, though, as between calls she contacts the Huntress, revealing that she arranged for the last 6 digits of Helena's cell phone number to spell Oracle. Huntress is willing to help, but she's busy on a child abduction case. Oracle aids Huntress in tracking down the child, who's still alive, and brings the kidnappers to justice. Huntress attempts to track down any security camera footage of suspicious vehicles entering the parking ramp to Mr. Fisher's company headquarters. Unfortunately, the only way she's going to be allowed to see any of the footage is to promise to go out on a date with the parking lot attendant. Back with Dinah, she contemplates breaking her wrist to free herself from her handcuffs as Fisher enters with some tea for her throat. He's deeply apologetic as he explains that after his encounter with Black Canary, Savant took his wife and daughters hostage and is now holding them for leverage.
Really? Fisher is now playing the faithful husband card when the whole reason he got into the car with Dinah to begin with was he saw it as an opportunity to cheat on his wife?
It's then that Dinah notices something in her beverage and shoos her captors away by sending her to the drugstore for feminine products. It turns out that Fisher managed to give Dinah her communicator to Oracle, and now she's able to be located. Added to that, Oracle has managed to piece together Savant's real identity.
Brian Derlin, aka Savant, was a trust fund kid who turned to extortion after his father cut him off. Shortly before that, though, Brian attempted to make a go of it as a costume crime fighter in Gotham City. It's there that he ran afoul of Batman after trying to arrest 2 arsonists who were getting away from setting a building on fire. However, because Savant paid more attention to the arsonists than the people inside the burning building, that just cheesed the Dark Knight off when Batman told him to get out of Gotham City. Ever since then, Savant has felt rather slighted. Savant is actually a genius-level intellect with multilingual abilities and also a supreme martial arts fighter. However, due to a neurochemical imbalance in his brain, he suffers from extreme forgetfulness.
Oracle begins taunting Savant with what she has learned, also pointing out that she's hacking into his computer to download the files he has on his victims. As this happens, Huntress arrives and begins fighting with Creote. Unfortunately, Savant still has leverage with Dinah, who may have broken her handcuffs, but is still trapped in her room due to the fact that it's located at the top of a long flight of stairs. As a fire breaks out in the building, because really, why not at this point, Fisher uses the scuffle to manage to locate his family and get them to safety before heading back inside. Canary manages to incapacitate Savant long enough to attempt sliding down a handrail to freedom. However, he manages to catch up to her, and the two wind up colliding with Huntress and Creote. It's then that Mr. Fisher returns and takes down Creote with a flaming 2x4, freeing up Huntress to go after Savant, as Oracle manages to finish downloading all the files. Black Canary and Huntress take down Savant as the emergency vehicles arrive. Afterwards, Dinah and Barbara talk. Barbara feels that the information on these files could and should be used to expose the corruption of those being blackmailed. However, Dinah points out that the evidence was obtained illegally and probably wouldn't hold up in court. This proves to be enough for Babs to lie about deleting the files and instead just keep them on her computer without Dinah knowing about it. As Helena prepares to take Dinah to the hospital and go out on a date, Black Canary leaves Mr. Fisher with a JSA contact information card. In exchange for him testifying against Savant, which he's likely to do, she should be able to testify on his behalf to argue for a more lenient sentence. A few weeks later, Black Canary pays a visit to the country estate of Senator Robert Pullman. The not-so-good senator is one of Savant's victims, and he's looking to get his hands on the files that incriminate him. The funny thing, though, is this is not Dinah Lance. It's actually Helena Bertinelli cosplaying as Black Canary. As the senator drones on while killing a mallard, Huntress and the real Black Canary snipe at each other about who has the more revealing outfit.
Oh, Huntress has the more revealing costume by far. I mean, not only is it way too revealing, but it's also completely impractical. Dinah might not have the most amount of coverage, but at least her abdomen isn't completely exposed so it can easily get shot. This is probably why in later issues they gave Helena a more full outfit.
Black Huntress explains once again that all of Savant's files were destroyed/deleted, but Pullman doesn't fully believe her and secretly orders his men to tail her back to the clock tower. Meanwhile, Savant is dropped off at Arkham Asylum and he's placed under the watch of a super abusive guard who's in the pocket of Senator Pullman. During a series of beatings, the guard taunts Savant with news that Creote, who's at Blackgate Penitentiary, has sold him out. Later, when the guard returns for another beating, Savant manages to swipe a page from Black Canary's playbook and snaps his wrist to break free of his handcuffs. He then incapacitates the guard and steals his uniform, so now he can go out on the path for revenge. Back at the clock tower, Dinah informs Oracle that her JSA compatriot Dr. Midnight has informed her that she can start rehab and soon will be back out on the streets. That being said, though, Huntress is actually doing a pretty good job and should maybe become a permanent member of the group. Barbara agrees, but Helena shouldn't be Dinah's partner. She should be Dinah's replacement.
Okay, so part of Barbara's reasoning here stems from a Green Arrow storyline in the 1980s called The Longbow Hunters that saw an incident where Dinah was jumped trying to break up a drug trafficking ring and the lead drug trafficker began sexually assaulting her, even going as far as to slit her throat, which prevented her from doing her canary cry for a number of years. Though she was eventually rescued by Green Arrow, who killed the drug dealer in question, it kind of provided a tipping point for the slow degradation of their relationship as the trauma haunted her for some time afterwards.
Dinah is incensed, but Oracle remains firm. Dinah can stay on as long as she works alongside Oracle, not Huntress. Dinah is left in tears as Oracle takes her lunch break at the Italian place from earlier. While waiting for her eggplant parmigiana, Babs meets a special needs child who belongs to the waitress who was serving her. Talking with the waitress makes Barbara reconsider her feelings by learning to understand that she can't force Dinah to be something that she isn't. Meanwhile, Dinah's training session with Cassandra Cain is interrupted by a call from the Huntress. She's been trying to shake Pullman's goons for a while, but now they're starting to shoot at her. Dinah directs Huntress to the alleyway behind the clock tower and gets in place to halt the goons with a canary cry. When Oracle returns, she apologizes and relents to Dinah and Helena working together from now on. All is not at ease, though, as Oracle soon receives a call from Savant. He knows she didn't delete the files she downloaded, and now he's coming. She manages to scare him off by pointing out that she can hack into any security system in Gotham City to trace him. Still, it appears that this is not over.
And that concludes our look at Birds of Prey of Like Minds. How was it? Well, on the plus side, there's some real good characterization in this book, especially with the interaction between all the characters. They're funny, they're smart, they're grounded, they're believable, they're well-rounded. Okay, I mean, that says it all. It's like they're not over the top, they're not stupid, they're not, I mean, they might not do smart things intentionally, but, or you get the idea. And like, they may not do smart things, but they at least are coming at them from a believable standpoint, is what I'm trying to say there. And, you know, there's some really nice pacing in this as well. I mean, this, you could argue, is two stories, a 4-issue story and then a 2-part story at the end. But here's the thing, those 2 issues at the end don't feel like filler the way so many of them do in these things. It really feels like, hey, this is a continuation and we're getting a nice little endpoint to move on for further volumes. I think it does a really good job of doing that. There's nothing really slow down and fillery here. And you know what? Yeah, there's a lot of cheesecake in this, like our last episode, but this is the way to do cheesecake right. There's not a lot of gratuitous shots of girls in the shower or Helena or Dinah waking up in the bed with a hospital gown or butt hanging out or anything like that. It's like they're attractive women, but for the most part, it's done well. It's not staged in a way that's just done to make them look sexy and titillating. That being said, there is one weird point with some of the staging that looks a little kind of clumsily done. I mean, there's a few instances of it, but the one that sticks out most prominently in my mind is this weird panel. I don't know how well you can see this, where Dinah is for some reason doing a handstand on her toppled wheelchair. What's happening here? I don't get it. But you know what? That's really kind of a minor nitpick, as well as that Fisher thing from before where he's talking about his family. So that's, like I said, those are really minor nitpicks in the grand scheme of things. I'm going to give Birds of Prey of Like Minds an A. And with that, let's see what we'll be doing next time on the Random Trade Review.
Remember, you can help support my channel at patreon.com/sleepytime for Cat Productions. There, you can request a trade to be put in the randomizer, aka the cardboard box. Also, remember, like, comment, share, subscribe, and ring that notification bell.